The doll in the dresser. The forbidden toy in an old house in the town of San Lorenzo. There was a room that had remained locked for years. It had been closed ever since the death of Aling Felisa, the eldest woman of the Rodriguez family, who passed away at the age of 96. When she died, all her belongings were left untouched inside her room, but there was one thing no one was ever allowed to touch: an old wooden dresser with carved roses along its sides. Its rusted lock still clung to the doors, and in the center a warning was written in red paint: "Do not open." Everyone in the house knew of the unspoken agreement. Even new generations were warned never open that dresser. According to Felisa, it held something that should never be awakened. But Jonah, her 14-year-old granddaughter, was naturally curious. She often spent her afternoons in her grandmother's old room. She loved antique things, the scent of aged wood and paper. One day, as she rummaged through Felisa's belongings, her eyes fell on that dresser. Its warning only deepened her interest. Unbeknownst to her, something in the room was drawing her in little by little. Each time she visited, it pulled her closer. One midnight, she awoke to the sound of a door creaking open the door to Felisa's room. She thought it was just the wind, but all the windows were shut. The next morning, she asked her mother about the dresser. Her mother told her it had once brought misfortune, and had originally come from a convent in Nueva Ecija, where Felisa used to work as a caretaker. According to the story, the dresser had been used to imprison a doll, an eerie figure given by a man whose identity was never known. It was said to be an offering from a mountain cult. After the doll arrived, strange things began to happen at the convent. Nuns started taking their own lives. Some disappeared in their sleep. They tried to burn the doll, but it wouldn't catch fire. So they locked it in the dresser with 3 padlocks and returned it to Felisa, who had by then resigned from the convent. She kept it hidden in her home in San Lorenzo. Jonah didn't believe the story. She assumed it was just meant to scare her. So one afternoon, when no one else was home, she took a knife and forced the dresser open. As the doors creaked apart, a gust of cold air hit her face, bringing with it the scent of rotting paper and dried flowers. Inside was a doll, old and worn, with eyes that seemed almost real. It wore a white dress stained with something that looked like blood. Its arms were stretched out, and its head seemed to move with her gaze. A shiver ran down her spine. She slammed the dresser shut. But that night the nightmares began. She dreamed of a crying girl clutching the doll. Blood trickled from the girl's eyes as she whispered over and over, "Take me back to the dark." The next day, things in Jonah's room began falling without explanation. A mirror shattered without anyone near it. When her mother entered, she found deep claw marks on the floor as if something had been dragged. Jonah sobbed, saying she never wanted to sleep again. Days passed and things only got worse. Appliances broke down one after another. Laughter of an unseen child echoed through the house. A cold hand touched their backs while they showered. One night during a blackout, Jonah's youngest sibling saw a little girl under the table, smiling and saying, "Let's play." They finally called in a local shaman. After surveying the home, he declared that a wandering spirit was trapped within the doll. Not just any spirit, but one of the children of darkness, cursed beings born under the blood moon, tainted by witchcraft. A kind of Tiyanak, not one that remained a baby, but one that never grew up. The nuns of the convent had tried to hide it long ago. The only way to put the spirit to rest, the shaman said, was to perform a ritual of departure, a sacred prayer and offering that had to be done at the very place the doll was first found, the abandoned convent in Nueva Ecija. The family traveled with Jonah and the doll to the crumbling site. As the ritual began, the air grew cold. The weeping of a child echoed through the trees. The plants around them seemed to move. Black smoke oozed from the dresser as the ceremony reached its peak. A bone-chilling scream tore through the night. Then silence. The doll fell to the ground, empty, lifeless. The convent was sealed off once more. The dresser was burned and its ashes buried in the churchyard. But a month later, a little girl was seen standing by the roadside in San Lorenzo. She wore a white dress, still stained, and held the same doll in her arms. She smiled as she watched the cars pass by. It had been 3 days since Liana threw the doll into the creek behind their house. 3 days of silence from the dresser. 3 days where the nightmares had stopped. But on the 4th night, her sister B began to cry again, not the quiet kind that meant she had bad dreams. This was a scream that cracked through the silence like something broke when Liana rushed into her room. She saw B standing in front of the dresser. Her eyes were open, but blank. She pointed at the drawer where the doll used to be, and said in a voice that did not belong to her, "She's not done playing." Liana grabbed B and pulled her back. But her little sister didn't blink or resist. It was like her body was there, but her mind wasn't. And then B whispered something that made Liana's skin crawl. "She wants a new face the next day." Liana searched the creek. She wanted to make sure the doll was gone, but the water was still. No toy floating. No dress snagged on roots, just mud and silence, and the thick smell of something rotting underneath. As she turned to leave, she saw small footprints in the soft soil near the bank, not hers, not Bia's. They were too small, and barefoot she followed them. They led nowhere, stopping under the shadow of an old acacia tree, where the light didn't seem to touch the ground from beneath the tree. Liana heard something soft. Like a giggle it echoed low and strange, like it came from inside the earth. She ran that night. Liana covered the mirror in her room with a cloth. She remembered what happened the last time she looked, but sometime after midnight. She woke up, the cloth was gone, the mirror was exposed again, and written on the glass, in something brown and thick like dried blood, was a single phrase, "Let me wear you." Liana backed away slowly, but the reflection didn't move. It stood staring at her with a slight tilt of its head. Then it blinked, but she didn't. Liana's grandmother came over the next morning. She was the only one who ever believed the stories about the doll. When she saw Bee sitting on the floor with her back turned, humming a lullaby they didn't know, she turned pale. She pulled Liana aside and told her something she had never said before. "There's an old box beneath your dresser. Inside it is her name. You must never say it out loud, but you must see it. Only then will you understand." Liana didn't want to open the box, but that night she did. Inside was an old scrap of newspaper, a burned photo of a girl with glassy eyes and something clutched in her hands, the same doll, and on the back of the photo, scribbled in what looked like a child's handwriting, "She drowned." But her toy didn't. It wanted someone new. Bee began to change. She stopped speaking normally and would only speak in rhyme. She started sleeping inside the dresser when their mother found her curled in there one morning. She screamed, but Bee just looked up and smiled. "This is her house now." They tried to take her to church, but Bee scratched the priest until he bled. And when they locked the dresser, they found it open again the next day, hinges melted like wax. That's when Liana knew what had to be done. Liana returned to the acacia tree at night, holding the burned photo, the scrap of newspaper, and a shard of the mirror that showed the doll's name in reverse. She dug where the footprints ended and found something soft, cloth. She tore at it until her hands bled. And there it was, the doll, wet, matted, smiling, its eyes opened, and it said her name, Liana. The next morning, no one could find Liana. Only Bee, now completely silent, was sitting in front of the mirror. Her face was blank, but if you looked closely, very closely, you'd see something moving in her pupils, something small and smiling. The dresser is locked now, but sometimes, when the house is quiet and the wind is low, you can hear a knock from the inside and a child's voice saying, "Let's play again."
If you enjoyed this terrifying story, let us know in the comments below. Hit that like button to help us bring more cursed tales and dark legends to life. Don't forget to share this video with your friends, but warn them first. And if you dare, subscribe to this channel, because here in Pinoy Phobia, the horror never ends. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next cursed story, spine-chilling folklore, or true paranormal encounter from the shadows of the Philippines. Remember, some stories are meant to be heard, but others are meant to be warnings. Thank you for watching, and remember, whatever happens, don't look back.